Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. This is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of December 1st, 2024. It's the holiday season, and if you're looking for a gift, you can go to the astrologybyceleste.com website. I offer gift certificates on my services page, as well as I have a list of curated products and books and oracle decks, and a self-paced course called Meet the Zodiac available on the shop page. So check it out. Next, let's take a look back at the astrology in action related to Mercury retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. It started on November 25th, and there were so many stories that have dropped already. I'm taping this now on November 26th. At 6:37 p.m. Pacific time. So last week I predicted that Donald Trump may have one of his cases dropped. And I was talking about the New York case, and what they did is they put it on pause indefinitely. Also, Jack Smith moved to drop the two cases against Donald Trump for overturning the election and keeping the documents, taking the classified documents with him. And last week I talked about one of the things that was important was that Jupiter retrograde was conjunct Donald Trump's Uranus in his 10th house, which is the most public house of the chart. Jupiter rules legal affairs, Uranus breaks things, and he got a lucky break. And Gemini does things twice, and so two cases were dropped. And the retrograde, the other case being like paused indefinitely, when a planet's stationing to retrograde, it's like barely moving in the sky, and it signifies delays. So the hush money case is delayed indefinitely. Also, I made a mistake last week. I was listening to my podcast yesterday, and I said that Donald Trump had his North Node at 20 Sagittarius, and what I meant to say was his South Node. And I was talking about how Mercury retrograde stationed conjunct his Moon in his South Node, and how I thought that meant that some of these things would be sucked down the drain. I apologize for the error, but it's so in line with Mercury retrograde. Also, Hyundai and Kia recalled over 200,000 electric vehicles for power loss. And that's in line not just with the Mercury retrograde, because Mercury rules cars, but also Mars is going retrograde on December 6th. So here we have power loss in cars, and recall is R-E word. And with retrogrades, we revisit, recall, recount, review, reconnect. All of them are very common for when we have a retrograde cycle. Another story that's very of interest is Macy's delayed earnings because an employee hid $154 million in expenses. And the issue was the accrual entries around small package deliveries. So Mercury rules transportation. And so you can think about the small packages, the deliveries, and retrogrades delay. So they had to delay an earnings call because of this thing. And I'm sure there'll be more information about that coming out, because that's a lot of money to have a problem with. In Lithuania, there was a plane crash. Mercury rules transportation. And one of my favorite stories that brings in the Mercury and the Mars retrograde that's coming is that Drake has started a lawsuit against Universal Music Group and Spotify about the diss track that Kendrick Lamar wrote and performs called Not Like Us. And it was one of the biggest hits of this summer. Everybody was talking about it and singing it. And Kendrick Lamar was at some event where he and the audience were singing this song 5 times in a row. And Drake is claiming that Spotify and the music group did things to artificially pump up the numbers for Not Like Us. And so the comments on Instagram were hilarious. Sagittarius can bring the jokes about how Drake has called HR about a rap battle. By revisiting this topic, Drake has bringing this song back up into the collective conversation, and people are going back and listening to it again. And Mars retrograde brings in the theme of an old battle revisited. Also, Israel and Lebanon have signed off on a ceasefire. I hope this deal holds. When deals are signed during a retrograde, sometimes they collapse, but let's keep hope alive and hope this horrible fighting stays finished. So that's some good news about Mercury retrograde. Mercury also rules commerce, and Donald Trump has said he's going to institute 25% tariffs on all goods coming from Mexico and Canada unless they stop drug flow and people coming into the country. He said this during a retrograde, so hopefully, this will be revisited next year and maybe not even happen because retrogrades can bring the collapse of anything contemplated, and these tariffs would send prices through the roof for Americans. Conflicts and disagreements often arise with retrogrades, and the Mexican president gave a speech talking about how if that's what happens, that Mexico would likely institute its own tariffs. So here we have this conflict over and potentially a trade war. So trade war, Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, revisiting how we do business between two countries that Donald Trump had an agreement signed with previously, and essentially reneging on that and instituting different terms. So bringing a conflict, and we'll see what happens going forward. The theme of this week is cease and desist, and the 3 things I want you to think about as you're navigating this week. The first is that we had a new moon at 9 degrees of Sagittarius, and it was either last night or today, Sunday, December 1st, depending on where in the world you live. New moons are a great time to set intentions on what you want to bring into your life. And Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's associated with long-distance travel, different cultures. It's about seeking expansion and new experiences in areas that maybe you aren't very knowledgeable or comfortable with. So it's growth energy. Sagittarius is also associated with belief systems and our life philosophies. So this is a great time to take some time to contemplate your belief systems and consider what has changed from when you were a child to where you are now. This is something Mercury retrograde's inviting us to reconsider how we view some things. Also, it's a great time to commit to some kind of movement practice or exercise practice where you're moving your body. Sagittarius rules the hips and the thighs and the liver and the gallbladder. So you may want to consider doing something to improve your diet or make your liver healthier. Those are some of the things you can think about. I did a new moon workshop, and you can get the link to it. You can go to the link to it in the show notes and purchase the recording and watch it at your own leisure for great information about what may be coming up based on this moon cycle and watch me do some take chart readings if you're an astrology student. Now, this new moon, Sagittarius is typically very joyful. This new moon has a little bit of a damper on it because it is square Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn delays. Saturn gives restrictions. It can feel very cold and harsh. So actually, this little new moon has more than a little bit of a damper on it. The new moon is conjunct Antares, which is one of the royal fixed stars. And it's a star of intensity. It's the rival of Aries/Mars, the god of war. Also the heart of the Scorpion. So it's associated with feuds, disagreements, and treachery. So these may be some topics that we're seeing coming up in our own lives or in the collective. When you set it to the United States, it's a 29-degree Virgo rising with Gemini on the midheaven. So Mercury retrograde is ruling the chart at this degree of crisis and decay. So there's going to be some big stuff coming up in the U.S. related to this new moon that may feel like it's coming out of nowhere. So just be prepared. Maybe it's all weather related, but I think there's some other things that could be coming up. The tarot card is the Eight of Wands, which is a card of speed and fastness, which is so interesting because there's so much retrograde energy. Jupiter, which rules the sign of Sagittarius, is retrograde in the sky, and it's moving to square Saturn. Jupiter expands, Saturn constricts. So there's that brings slowness. Mercury retrograde is slowing things down as well. And so maybe it's more of the Eight of Wands upside down, which can signify delays. The Sabian symbol is a theatrical representation of a golden-haired goddess of opportunity. And with this, I got the image of the Statue of Liberty, a golden-haired goddess of opportunity, although we don't know what color her hair is. But anyway, that just really came to me. But you can think about thinking about expansion and positive things coming and looking for opportunities. Also, remember, all that glitters is not gold. Regarding the moon phase family, the 27th month cycle, where the sun and the moon illuminate your progress every 9 months when your chart is activated. There may be a story that has pivot points every 9 months. So the new moon is on December 1st at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. The sun and the moon are both at that degree. 9 months from now, there'll be a first quarter moon where there may be some course correction, where the sun is in Virgo, the moon is in Sagittarius. On August 31st of 2025, they're both at 8 degrees. The full moon, where the sun is in Gemini, the moon in Sagittarius, is 9 months later on May 31st, 2026, both at 9 degrees. And the last quarter moon, also at 9 degrees, where the sun is in Pisces, the moon in Sagittarius, February 28th, 2027. So your chart is being activated by the moon, which rules our emotions, and it speaks to our subconscious every 9 months in the same area of your chart. So you can use these dates to set intentions as well as if you journal to see what comes to light. Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Herlick, creates this calendar every year, and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2024 or ABC2025, depending on the year. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Mars, the planet of action, drive, and assertion, will go retrograde at 6th Leo on December 6th, and is going to back it up to 17 Cancer and go direct on February 23rd. We're going to see intensity 5 days before and after. And remember, a retrograde is an affliction. So this is symbolic of there being Marshall-type problems that will arise. We will see energy issues, some power outages. We know in Ukraine, Russia is trying to knock out the Ukraine power grid. Leo rules the low back and the heart, so be careful lifting anything too heavy. And if anyone, you or anyone around yourself has any concerns about your heart or having a heart attack, go right to the doctor. Leo rules celebrities, royalty, the special ones. I'm wondering, if Mars rules competition, I wonder if there'll be some bad calls at high-profile sports games. That could be something we're seeing with this. There's potential for people to have low energy. This is an invitation to slow down everything in your life, lighten your load. You can think about the 10 of Wands and the Tarot deck. Put down your burdens as much as you can. Now, some people will have issues with sexual problems, like this could be your one day around December 6th, you wake up and realize, oh, my sex drive is really low, or I need some blue pills or something like that. Some people will realize and need to make an appointment with the doctor. Impulsiveness will be ramped up. I also think with Mercury retrograde, and Mercury rules electronics and things like that, and Mars retrograde, Mars rules crimes, we'll be seeing some cyber crimes, so cyber or hacking incidents. So just be aware. Anything you can do to protect your passwords. Do not just click on anything without thinking. Make sure things are from the right people. If you see something on Facebook, which is like, I can't believe he's gone or she's gone, from one of your friends, they likely got hacked. Don't click on it, or you're going to waste a lot of time trying to clean that up. When Mars goes retrograde, there's a lot of aspects going on right about that time. Mercury retrograde is square Saturn and Pisces, both at 13 degrees on the same day. So that can be hard news, a communication of hard news, or some kind of plan is a failure. I'm really concerned about all of these conflicts around the world. There being like a misfire or some kind of mishap that amplifies conflict. Mars rules conflict and war. Now, Venus is at 29 degrees of Capricorn, which is a degree of crisis and decay. Now, Joe Biden is being pushed by people to certify or ratify or do something for the Equal Rights Amendment so that women can have better rights. So that could be a story that's positive that comes up around this time. Venus rules women, Capricorn the government, but also people in relationships. This could be at Venus at 29 Capricorn, this crisis and decay. You're arguing over duties and responsibilities, and the fight gets totally out of control. This could also be like domestic violence. Mercury retrograde square Saturn can be like really mean words, and Mars, actual physical harm. And yeah, so that could be something that goes on. And Neptune will station direct on December 7th at 27 degrees of Pisces. So the fact that Mars is retrograde, Neptune's direct, Mercury square Saturn, and Venus at 29 Capricorn, almost to Pluto, there's going to be a story that encompasses all of these. I will let you know what it is next week. Now, Neptune direct could be about deception being revealed, being uncovered. And with Mars retrograde, retrogrades pull the tape back so you can see what's underneath. So there can be things about Mars topics that we're made aware of around competitions, around conflicts, and all sorts of things that we see beneath the surface. And something that's been the whispers of getting louder has been about there's a couple of data scientists who want Kamala Harris to ask for a recounting of ballots in swing states because of the high percentage of bullet ballots. And bullet ballots are a ballot where the person has only voted for the president and nothing else down the ticket. And they are asserting that this year there was an inordinately high number of these bullet ballots. Bullets are martial, ballots mercurial. So this is why I'm bringing it to your attention, because this would make sense about being at the dual Mercury and Mars retrograde. Mars rules competitions, like the presidential contest is a competition, and ballots being recounted, that's so in line with Mercury retrograde. Now, is it going to get to that level? I don't know. The fact that it's being discussed is in line with the transit. I know Snopes had said that it kind of discounted the claim, but I saw an investigative journalist had written up about it. He really explained all the nuances of it and what they were alleging, that there may have been some hacking, that software could have created these ballots. So we'll see if this becomes a bigger story and if any news breaks on December 6th or right around there. We're going to see an uptick in combativeness, violent behavior, people acting wild. Already there was a guy on a United Airlines flight today, I saw it, where he stood up and he was kicking a seat on the airplane. Mercury retrograde rules, travel. Mars violence. He was acting very violent on this plane and, of course, got arrested. Now, there could be things like sideshows where people drive cars around in a circle and a bunch of people will gather and watch them. And one of them may end in some kind of fiery blaze where people get hurt. That would certainly be in line with the double retrograde. More Sean Combs news, where celebrities associated with him are exposed for being involved in these freak-offs, these sex parties. Could be a story that comes up because Leo rules celebrity and Mars rules sex. Something that could also, on the positive, be like Mars's energy, effort, drive. And it could be like you're working really hard on something, and you're under a lot of mental stress that peaks. And then you have a celebration where you pop the champagne. So Mars retrograde, you've been driving forward and now you can stop and take the foot off the gas. The mental stress is Mercury rules the thought processes, square Saturn, which is pressure. That could be a peak on this day. And you have a celebration and pop the champagne. That's Neptune. So that could be something that someone experiences around this transit. I also wrote, a situation reaches a boiling point where something must be done. A decision must be made. There could be something disastrous or a failure involved. There may be a decision to pause, like a company was going to roll out a new product, but something is wrong with it in the current model that they have. And maybe it's something that's too martial, where the motor doesn't work right, or it may cause a fire or something like that. And retrogrades delay, and the Venus and Capricorn at that degree of crisis and decay. There's going to be a money, Venus rules resources problem for the Capricorn business. And Neptune, there's going to be disappointment. Or the company could decide to go ahead and do it anyway, And there could be someone who works there who's a whistleblower who's going to talk about it and talk about what they knew and when they knew it at a later date. And the company's not going to get away with pretending they didn't know anything about the fact that there was a problem with this model of the product. Also, an edgy joke. Someone could be telling an edgy joke and it goes very, very wrong on this day and people get very mad or someone starts crying, Neptune. I also get the image of a high wire act, like there's someone walking between two towers on a tight rope and they almost get to the end. And, maybe there's like a wind comes in out of nowhere and they fall off and then hopefully they grab the rope before they fall to the ground anyway, but they don't complete this difficult task. This thing that took a lot of extreme skill to do, it's a stunning failure. But it's something that Leo captured people's attention. And then it's like, the crowd is so disappointed at what they have just seen. It also could be about like a forensic audit is happening where you're looking back through the entries on the spreadsheet and it's in process, but you realize there's been theft. Mars and Mercury retrograde, you're finding theft and you have to tell the boss about it. Could be something that happens with this. But there are going to be things that happen and there'll be tears, Neptune. For some people, there'll be tears of joy maybe or tears of relief. For others, there'll be tears of sadness. Now, one thing I was thinking, the tears of relief, maybe this is when the war in Gaza comes to an end, where they come to a ceasefire. There's sudden peace. That could be Mars retrograde, like pulling back from the conflict. And Neptune, there being this peace, this relief, this beautiful energy going forward. Now, would also be a conflict on the seas where I think I've mentioned before, You Sunk My Battleship was one of the things I wrote down when I started preparing for this year. Hopefully that's not it, where there's an accident that causes a conflict on the seas. Also, it could just be a big, big, big storm, either a firestorm or a weather. I mean, this is going to be a rough winter. We're already seeing just a tremendous amount of storms, but these are some of the things we may be seeing coming up during Mars retrograde. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Venus is entering Aquarius on December 6th through January 2nd. Aquarius is the sign of groups and friends and our hopes and dreams and the future. Venus rules relationships, women, resources. I wrote down beautiful symbols for freedom. Maybe something you notice on that day. Maybe you're flipping through a book and you see a picture of the Statue of Liberty. That's Venus in Aquarius, a beautiful symbol, a beautiful woman who's about freedom. Now, it's at 29 degrees of Capricorn, right before it enters the sign and Mars is retrograde, and then Venus meets Pluto in Aquarius. So there could be something about a power struggle in a group that comes to our conscious attention with this. That's something I wrote down. Will we find out what Donald Trump's secret with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was? He mentioned on the campaign trail he and Mike had some kind of secret. And the House of Representatives is an Aquarius organization. There could be the exposure of someone related or something related to social media, or more news about a country that's limiting kids' ability to use social media, like taking control over an organization. So, yeah, Venus at 29 Capricorn could be a government takes control over or tells a social media company they're going to have big fines about if kids are on their app without permission or something. That could be the Mercury square Saturn kids, Mercury or blocked Saturn, and Mars retrograde could be something about sex or something like that. Yeah. There also could be some story about freedom, people who are set free. I wondered if maybe hostages would be set free was another thing I had written down related to this Mars retrograde. And you can think about Venus in Aquarius. We're free, like seeing a woman released from captivity.
If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com.
On Sunday, the word of the day is ALOHA. The new moon is at 1:21 a.m. East Coast time, so it was at 10:21 p.m. Pacific time. So happy new moon. You can grab the recording of the new moon workshop at the link in the show notes if you want to go deeper. On this day, the moon is conjunct Mercury retrograde at 19 degrees of Sagittarius. The moon rules our emotions. Mercury, our thought processes. Retrogrades the past. Are you thinking about travel to a place you've been before and having some nostalgia? You can be thinking about going to Hawaii. In Hawaii, aloha means hello and goodbye. This could be a moon cycle where you're meeting new people, saying goodbye to some people. Mercury retrograde will be trying Chiron retrograde, both at 19 degrees. So this is like a bunch of people are involved in some kind of conflict or argument, or Mercury trine Chiron could be like a car accident where somebody's speeding and they cause a multiple chain car accident. Or people are arguing loudly. It could be at a store over the last toy of something like that. There could be travel delays or problems, or maybe you're thinking about things that happened in the past for some reason. You know, there's a new moon in Sagittarius, which is long distance travel, and all of a sudden you're thinking about some trip in the past. On Monday, the word of the day is reversals. On this day, Venus in Capricorn is trine Uranus retrograde in Taurus. They're both at 24 degrees. And Uranus is still on Algol, that fixed star that's about intensity, often associated with catastrophes or women who won't be subservient, like Lilith, or punished for being attacked, like Medusa. And with Uranus, it could be something really positive or negative. It's just something surprising that there is a sudden break. This could be your boss, because Capricorn rules businesses, tells you there needs to be a change in spending, Venus. Like, for instance, a project is canceled or bonuses are canceled because of the upcoming tariffs. The company needs to make changes based on Donald Trump saying there's going to be all these tariffs. Also could be your spouse brings up some old argument and it's like, why are we talking about this again? Venus rules relationships. You may see older women. Capricorn has to do with older people. And maybe Martha Stewart is she's a businesswoman who's older, talking about what a wonderful thing it is to be free after having been imprisoned on some news show or something like that. There was recently a documentary around her. So this is like a theme of something you could be seeing on this day. You could have freedom from a long-term financial commitment. Maybe this is the day you pay off your mortgage. You're done with that. Or a credit card. You can think also about people who throw like paint on paintings. Now with this, it could be like someone like does something to defile statue. Like I keep talking about the Statue of Liberty or other countries' symbols of beauty, like the Eiffel Tower. Or someone could do a prank, like maybe they're trying to jump off the Eiffel Tower with a parachute, and Uranus, it goes very wrong and they like break their leg or something like that. Hostages could be released. Maybe this is the day there'll be a ceasefire and we see some hostages released or rescued from Gaza, or maybe there's bank robbers and a hostage slips away from kidnappers. Some kind of successful law enforcement sting could be possible. The moon enters Capricorn at 1:08 p.m. Pacific time. Capricorn rules governments, big businesses, the elderly. The moon is in Capricorn. It's a great time to be planning for a future success, for things that you can work towards. So this could be a great time to be working on a business plan. Maybe you're thinking about what you need to do to take care of your elderly parents. Things like that can come to your conscious attention. What meetings do you want to have with people at work with Venus in Capricorn? Maybe you're thinking about networking. Great time to ask someone, or maybe someone asks you out for lunch at work just to network. On Tuesday, the word of the day is clarity. On this day, the moon is sextile Saturn in Pisces. That's all that's really going on that day. Saturn can bring clarity or reality. And Saturn is like a boss or authority figure. So maybe your boss gives you some clarity about something. Or you yourself get emotionally clear about a goal that you have. On Wednesday, the word of the day is who. And the song Dancing Queen was the song playing in my head, so I thought that was really interesting. Sweden, ABBA is what I wrote down about that. Mercury in Sagittarius is retrograde, opposite Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, both at 16 degrees. And I wrote down who because this really feels like that joke, Who's on First? With Abbott and Costello, and it's like they're just misunderstanding each other. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it. Just Google it. Who's on First? Abbott and Costello, and it's this whole skit about miscommunication that's so on point for Mercury retrograde. Now on this day, also the sun in Sagittarius, the sun rules authorities, figures, is squaring Saturn and Pisces, and Saturn can end things, delay things. It's indicative of failure. It's potentially a leader is giving bad news. The sun and Saturn are both at 13 degrees of the receptive signs. And I wrote down maybe Trump is saying he won't give the public health organization, the World Health Organization, any more money, or just threatening them with something is possible. And Venus in Capricorn sextile Neptune and Pisces, both at 27 degrees. That's why I said money, that the U.S. government is no longer giving money to help or support disadvantaged places because it's charity or something like that. Now, Venus in Capricorn sextile Neptune and Pisces, you could see a really well-dressed woman. Maybe she's a little older in a tailored suit, like a business suit. And with Neptune, maybe you start fantasizing, what's her life like or something like that. Or also could be someone famous passes or loses their spouse. That could be news on this day. And we're looking at a Venus in Capricorn type, or maybe a couple, or talking about a couple that was in the film business, Pisces. The moon meets Venus at 3:33 p.m. Pacific time. When the moon and Venus, or the feminine principles, meet, it's a goddess day. They're both in the sign of Capricorn. You can think about, what are you committed to? What do you What commitments do you really love and honor? There's going to be a waxing crescent moon, which we start to see the light. So maybe you get ideas about what you want to bring forth in your life. That waxing crescent moon is at 28 degrees of Capricorn at 5:27 p.m. Pacific time. Maybe you get a great idea about someone you want to partner with on a work project. An aha moment with the waxing crescent moon. The Aquarius moon starts at 8:20 p.m. Pacific time. This air sign communicates and connects. So maybe you text your colleague about, hey, let's meet and discuss whatever. And soon after that, the moon and Pluto will meet. Perhaps your spouse says, hey, this is you and I time. Why are you texting someone? Let's focus on the family matters or something like that. Because with Pluto, there can be 3 people involved or 2 people and a thing involved. And there's a sense of a little bit of a power struggle. And it can bring up subconscious thing like your spouse is feeling a little bit ignored because you're focused on your work or something like that. On Thursday, the word of the day is discovery. Mercury retrograde is conjunct the sun in Sagittarius at 14 degrees. When a planet meets the sun, it's called cazimi. And it's with Mercury retrograde, cazimi, it's a very internal thing where you may get some downloads or insights. It's a great time to just stop what you're doing, give yourself some time to just think or meditate, and you may get incredible downloads or ideas. The thought is that with a cazimi, you sit with the king. The sun is the king, and you can ask for what you want, and it may be granted. It's thought to be very positive when people have planets cazimi in their chart. And what that means is the planet is an orb of 17 minutes. Like Oprah has Venus cazimi, and she is one of the most wealthiest women in the world, and she came from poverty. Now, someone could be having, I feel like with this, there's also this death and rebirth symbology. So there's always, like, we'll be hearing about someone who passed away, but this could be the discovery. You find out, you're at the doctor's, and they tell you what's wrong with you after you've been having all these tests. That could be something. You get your diagnosis. On Friday, the word of the day is blowout. Mars is retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo at 3:33 p.m. Pacific time. And with this Mars retrograde, as I said earlier, Mars rules the heart. And I just got this image of like something sudden happens that's really big. Like it's not a heart attack where the person is feeling like short of breath and then for a while and then it hits. It's like with the AAA, which is the aortic aneurysm, like where the aorta just bursts. After it's been weakening, and then it just burst without any notice. So it's that kind of, it's a big energy, this Mars retrograde. So if you're around anyone who like starts sweating or looks funny or anything, just get them right to the doctor, because if their chart is activated, meaning they have a planet or anything right around 6 Leo, it could be a problem. And because Mercury and Sagittarius are square Saturn and Pisces, which also suggests there could be somebody's experiencing pressure, having hard news. Mercury rules tubes of all kinds, and the aorta is a tube of sorts. That's where I came up with that. Now, Venus enters the sign of Aquarius at 10:13 p.m. Pacific time. Also, this could be a blowout fight, and this could be like domestic violence, and it's the last time the person finally calls a friend. Aquarius rules friends, and decides to leave. This could also be someone blows out their last match to light a cigarette, and they have their last cigarette forever. Mars retrograde, I quit. You refrain from smoking forever. Very important to be extra careful with fire or knives. Conflicts can go from 0 to 100 very quickly, like a fight of the century kind of thing. With Venus and Aquarius, like a group could be gathering in order to, and like shouting at each other. It could be something with Mercury square Saturn and this Mars retrograde. So we will be hearing about conflict throughout a couple days before and after this news, likely this in the news. On Saturday, the word of the day is memorial. The moon enters Pisces at 1:48 p.m. Pacific time, and Venus and Pluto meet at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So moon in Pisces, there's always something ending. Maybe there's a memorial for a famous person who passed on, or maybe some people are going to a funeral on this day with Neptune stationing direct on this day. The sun in Sagittarius is opposite Jupiter in Gemini, both at 12:57 p.m. Now, the sun and Jupiter met back in May, and it was in the sign of Taurus, so that's when they connected, and now this is the opposition. And back in May, a cleric who's one of the leaders, I think he was the prime minister of Iran, died in a helicopter crash. And with Mars retrograde, I wonder if there'll be news about the leader who died in a helicopter crash, because Mercury's retrograde, Mars is retrograde from Iran. Ibrahim something, I think Rossi. Jupiter rules religion and Gemini travel, so that's why I'm thinking about that as well. Neptune will go direct at 3:42 p.m. Pacific time, so there's clarity about what happened in that accident. With Neptune stationing direct on this day, I really caution people to be aware if you have any kind of escapism issues, like whatever it is, drinking, food, drugs, social media, gambling. You may feel a compulsion to do it more and more. And especially if you've been really good and stopped it for a long time, just be aware Neptune changing directions can intensify that desire for escapism. So just use all of your tools to prevent that. Neptune rules the ocean, so there could be news around oceans, or we get clarity, like you could read about companies been found dumping in the ocean, and hopefully with Mercury square Saturn, that happened yesterday, they're having consequences. Saturn can bring the consequences. So these are some of the themes I think we'll be seeing coming up this week. It's going to be a really big week. Some things may be really surprising. Use your intuition, because Mars attacks. And if you feel like, I don't feel safe in this place, or that person looks, just cross the street. Don't worry about hurting their feelings, or do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe and secure and taking care of yourself. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.